which character have you chosen and why have you chosen it?
I am Jadis from Narnia, so the White Witch of Narnia.
I think actually it looks nice in the pictures. I think it works.
My character is Anansi. Anansi is this kind of spider that kind of has a kind of wisdom all of his own.
Lion the Witch and the Wardrobe was one of my favourite books as a child. It had a massive impact on me. And Jadis was obviously terrifying, but really, really compelling. As a child, I felt sympathy with Edmund because I would have got up onto the chariot next to her and I wanted the Turkish Delight. And actually I used to make my mum go and buy me Turkish Delight so that I could eat it while reading the book.
And I just have like real kind of vivid memories of sometimes when something would happen to me, I'd do something naughty and my mother would say, well, you know, Anansi Spider, he was in this position and you know what he did? And then she'd tell me the Anansi story. Well, I'm not a storyteller in the old sense of the word, that, you know, I have stories that are made up or based on life that, you know, I weave into stories. I started telling my own story, and I started telling my own stories in poetry because I was fed up of seeing people on television claiming to represent me.
The first book I remember falling in love with was The Enchanted Wood when I was about 4. And I became so obsessed with it that I carried it around with me and had fights with my mum over being able to read it at the dinner table. It wasn't just a book anymore, it was like a portal. And I would enter, you know, I'd suddenly realised what it was like to be able to be at the dinner table, but actually not at the dinner table at the same time. And from that point on, I was pretty much dedicated to stories and to trying to write my own. They were kind of my secret, I think. I didn't want anyone else to take them away from me or tell me that they weren't any good.
And it just happened that a lot of young black people identified with my story because we were living in the same conditions. And that was my main concern, really.
The writing process itself, it was storytelling, but it was also just, I loved putting words together and trying to kind of come out with different voices and different kind of ways of making sentences. The book that I got published first, my first book was actually the second book I'd written. The first one no one wanted, it was rubbish. But I got an agent within like a week of the first 3 chapters. That process of like sort of getting over the shyness of showing it to people was a really long process. It took me 20 years to show anybody anything.
I didn't call it poetry, I call it playing with words. In the playground, I was the guy that could play with words. I could make up rhymes. You know, I'd go to a girl and say, if I make up a poem about you, can you give me a kiss? You know, and then I would just like make up a poem and impress the girl. Sometimes I'd get hit. In some languages, the word for poet and singer and storyteller is the same word. It's the same word. So I think all these divisions, what we call pigeonholes, it's all about selling the art. What we do is tell stories.